On November 10, 1995, Nigerian writer and activist Ken Saro-Wiwa was executed by the Nigerian government. His death sparked international outrage and put a spotlight on the human rights abuses and environmental destruction that were taking place in Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta region. Ken Saro-Wiwa was born in 1941 in the city of Port Harcourt in Nigeria's Niger Delta region. He was a writer, playwright, and environmental activist who was passionate about protecting the rights of the Ogoni people, an ethnic group in the Niger Delta who had been marginalized and oppressed for years. In the 1990s, Saro-Wiwa became the leader of the Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP, a non-violent movement that advocated for the rights of the Ogoni people and demanded that the Nigerian government and multinational oil companies operating in the region take responsibility for the environmental destruction caused by oil drilling. Saro-Wiwa's activism put him at odds with the Nigerian government, which was closely aligned with the oil industry. He was arrested several times and faced harassment and intimidation from the government and its allies. In 1994, he and 8 other Ogoni leaders were arrested and charged with the murder of 4 pro-government Ogoni chiefs. The trial was widely condemned as a sham, with evidence suggesting that the charges were politically motivated and that the accused had been tortured and coerced into making false confessions. Despite international pressure to release Saro-Wiwa and his fellow prisoners, they were found guilty and sentenced to death by hanging. Saro-Wiwa's execution on November 10, 1995, sent shockwaves throughout the world. It was widely condemned by human rights organizations, governments, and activists, who saw it as a clear violation of human rights and an attack on freedom of speech and expression. The international response to Saro-Wiwa's death was swift and intense. Nigeria faced economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation, and multinational oil companies operating in the Niger Delta faced pressure to take responsibility for the environmental damage caused by their operations. Saro-Wiwa became a symbol of resistance and a hero to activists around the world. In Nigeria, Saro-Wiwa's death was a turning point. It brought attention to the environmental devastation and human rights abuses that were taking place in the Niger Delta region and helped to galvanize a movement for change. His legacy inspired a new generation of activists who continue to fight for the rights of the Ogoni people and for environmental justice in Nigeria and beyond. However, despite the international outcry and pressure, the Nigerian government has never taken responsibility for Saro-Wiwa's death. The government has continued to deny any involvement in the execution, despite evidence that suggests that it was a political decision made at the highest levels of government. Ken Saro-Wiwa's death was a tragedy that sparked international outrage and put a spotlight on the human rights abuses and environmental destruction taking place in Nigeria's Niger Delta region. His legacy continues to inspire activists and human rights defenders around the world to fight for justice and to never give up in the face of adversity.